All right, it is 4:03. This is probably going to be the last webinar for a while too. We're going to try something different and go into office hours starting next month to kind of deformalize this process and make it a little bit more casual where people can just drop in for an hour a week. Okay, so this webinar is for newcomers and folks checking out updates. The agenda will be, we're going to go really quickly over the project page, the chapter page, the proofing page, pronunciation page, and the hotkeys and shortcuts. Every time we have a new webinar, we're kind of adding to the basics, which is why it's getting hard to explain the basics. This is turning into a really deep tool. We launched something new, a website over on the side, audiobookessentials.com, and it's going to be a place to get the most overview of what Pozotron does before you go to our site. It's kind of like a mix of help and support and introduction pages. And it's also going to be an additional resource to the Narrator's Roadmap, Narrator.life, Audiophile Magazine. Everybody who's here should be subscribed and check out all of those places. The more information you have from those places, the better your Pozotron experience is going to be. Okay, for brand new people, the project page, when you log in, it's the first place that you go. Your page is going to be blank when you start, and we have some really nice basic tutorials about creating a new project. The updates, for those of you who are looking for them, are going to come over here in these red boxes. And this should be the last week that we're in beta. Right now, it can kind of kick you back and forth into two different views of this front project page. So if you don't see something that looks like this, you have to make sure that you're in the beta version, which means it will say /beta in your browser. So this was something that was asked for a while, and it's the archiving function. Inside every project, you can archive them, which means it'll take them out of your organizational scheme so you don't see them on your front page anymore. And when you want to see or hide your archives, you can hit that little button up there. These guys over here are from flipping between views. If you have a Publisher 50 plan or above, you can hit the 3-line hamburger and get a project management page, which is in a list format. I think Cameron, you guys at JMM have that, and it's a different way of looking at things, and we're constantly updating the list format versus this picture format. But for new people, this is kind of how you organize your projects from the get-go. Any kind of questions about that front page and those really small updates there? I know it's not always super obvious what new icons do, so that's why we're working on that. Okay, good. The chapter page. This, again, make sure that your web browser says beta, and let's go over the things in the red boxes. If you ever need to see the original script that you uploaded, all you have to do is click on the name of your script right there, and it opens it up in a different page. If it's a PDF, if it's an EPUB or a docx, it'll allow you to re-download it again. So even though we have our transcript inside it, you can always check out your original file that you uploaded. These 3 lines over here, you can click them and drag them and drop to change the order. This way, people can record things out of order, and once you upload and they go into here, you can always move them around to make sure that it lines up with your session. The pencil icon, when you click it, you can change the name of your chapter. This is great for file organization, and it also lets you put extra information like narrator names as you're looking just at this chapter page. The 3 dots have 2 new options underneath. One of them says archive chapter, and the other one says download audio. Something that we had a request for forever is, what if I don't have the audio that I uploaded anymore? Now, under those 3 dots, you can download the exact file that you uploaded here. So this is awesome, awesome collaborative tool and a good chance to know exactly what went into Pozotron is that download button under there. If you haven't done any multi-narrator projects yet, something that we set up is in the reporting, there's ways to split the reports up between different narrators. If you have narrator one, narrator two, narrator one, narrator two, like in a lot of different projects. So if before you upload, you have the @ sign and then narrator one, narrator two, narrator three, it'll automatically tag all of the pickups inside to that narrator. Super powerful tool, but it's something that you have to plan on ahead of time and know how your narrators are set up. But once you get those labeled right, it becomes really automatic to get really excellent organized reports. The proofing page. Again, for super beginners, once you upload your audio and hit open proofing, it'll give you a transcript in the middle and it'll give you a list of annotations over on the left side. We are tweaking these all the time to make them make more sense. Every red underline over on the right is associated with something over on the left. Our 4 buttons are OK, typo, pickup, and filter out. OK means that it's not something that needs to be reported. If you click typo, it'll put it on a separate report that you can give back to your publisher or author. It creates a nice little report on the side. Pickup means that it goes on the ultimate pickup report, and filter out means that if this is something that's recurring, that's never going to need a pickup, like a name of a character that Pozotron always thinks is wrong, but it's right. Once you hit filter out a few times, it will filter out all the rest of them through the whole book, frontwards and backwards. So it's a good way to get rid of things that Pozotron regularly thinks might be a mistake, but it isn't actually. We've adjusted some of the wording on this top part up here. So the way the filing system works and the scanning works, Pozotron doesn't necessarily know where your chapters are. It knows where your files start, and it will automatically attach that text to that audio. But we want to make sure that the beginning of your chapter absolutely starts where your audio does, and that's why this little button is up here. It tells you, make sure that the beginning of this audio file is the beginning of your chapter text. And if that's fine, you hit OK. And if not, you can hit audio mixing, and that communicates that there's a pickup that needs to be done. Any questions so far? Doing pretty good on time. This is a new one. So here's an update for everyone. Before, when we had pause detection, anything longer than a certain amount, it would be over and over and over again, and you had to keep clicking OK. And we've had some clients say, is there any way to filter those out? So what we did was we made a long pause button and then a filter out. So you'll see this red underline here, and it says a pause is detected 1.9 seconds. If you're okay with 1.9 seconds or shorter, you can hit the filter out button under long pause, and it will filter them out all through the rest of the book. So we've had projects that are meditation projects or children's books that have a lot of long pauses, or even raw audio that people put that's unedited. And this will get rid of all of those unnecessary annotations that you don't want for the long pauses. So that's a big improvement. The pronunciation page keeps getting better and better. Jack says, is the last annotation like the first one? Yes. So checking for the end of the chapter and checking for the beginning has that same style of annotation. So the pronunciation page, anyone who's followed along the Pozotron path for the past several months has seen this change over and over and over again. So here's sort of the latest updates and how it works. You have a suggestions page and then a research page. In your suggestions page, it'll give you this list of auto-populated words and say, do you want it on your research list or do you want to ignore it? And we have the hotkeys of R and I, so you can scream through these. However many auto-populated words it thinks anywhere between 50 and 500. You can just hotkey your way right through them. And when you want to research them, it'll kick it over into this research list. This little magnifying glass, when you look at it live, it'll show you in context. So it says there's a count of 3 here. The first one is on page 9. And when you look at that magnifying glass, it'll actually show you the sentence that it's around in your text. Once things are on the research list, there's a little microphone button where you can make your own MP3. As soon as you hit research, it looks in Oxford for the IPA version. Pretty soon, we're thinking about having people be able to select. Lots of people want Merriam-Webster as that auto one. I don't know if anyone in the room here is one of those people. We had a survey, and maybe Esther was one of them, who said that Merriam-Webster absolutely is what they want. So we might make it so that you can default on Merriam-Webster or Forvo. Youglish will always be kind of that button over on the side. And so this just keeps getting better and better, and the more feedback we get, yes, yeah, lots of Merriam-Webster fans. And so the more feedback we get about how people use this, the better it's going to be. We can now add lists of custom words. So if you have 10 words that you want to add to this list that we didn't have on there automatically, you click in that box, paste them in there, and it automatically starts researching them and putting them in the list. You don't even have to hit plus anymore. Importing and exporting, you can now import CSVs of full lists, and you can export what looks like the classic style of pronunciation guide, which will have the phonetics associated with it along with the buttons. And this new thing here, we had a lot of clients who said, hey, we want to share the pronunciation page, but we don't want to share the whole project. That shared button now does exactly that. Once you click the button, it will give you a link that anyone can click on and just see the stripped down pronunciation page. So it looks sort of like this, but they can't add anything. They never have to go into the project at all. They just get your MP3 word list along with what you've made for them, and you can adjust it. And every time they refresh, it'll be updated in real time. Scan occurrences keeps getting better as well. And that's on this page. After you add words to your research list and you hit scan occurrences, it'll take you to a page where you can click to select these words and export the markers for everything that you've checked. So for example, if you just wanted everywhere in the book that Piper was said, you'd check that box and you would say export markers location, and it gives you in your DAW of choice markers at exact timestamps for every time they said Piper. A new feature to kind of add on to this is that now you can annotate every time Piper is said back in the proofing tool. So as soon as you click the annotate button, you can go back into the proofing page, and every time it says Pozotron or Proofer or M16, it'll show you where that is back in the proofing page. So that's been a huge adjustment, that there's finally some integration between the pronunciation page, DAW markers, and the actual proofing page. So a really good update there. Any questions about that? That came directly from a lot of people's requests. Okay, Esther says she keeps getting an error message that her screen size isn't optimal, but it's at the standard setting. Also, there's a weird overhang that takes up a third of the screen. We keep working on that. I forget who I talked to the other day. You can make, on a Mac, it's Command minus. I'm not sure what it's on a PC, but if you kind of shrink the size of your browser, that error message can go away. And we're still working on, when you have projects up, the real estate with the pronunciation page is a little funny because there's a lot that goes on there. So yes, Esther, we're working on it, and we have been trying to figure out how to get everything on a smaller and smaller area. Yep. And we're also trying to make this work so that it's perfectly seamless on an iPad, which is works in progress. Hotkeys from user requests. N. So if you're on the proofing page and you highlight a word and click the N button, it automatically makes an annotation over in the left column for noise. So if you hear a click or a pop, you don't have to drag and drop and click the bubble and go over and hit N and do a whole bunch of other things. Emma says that N is her new favorite feature. Lots of people ask for it. Once you get in the groove of it, it's a fantastic way to save 5 clicks when you hear sounds. And this was a specific request as well, basically a turbo mode for spot checking. And if you have a project that you want to try this on, it kind of twists my brain sideways, but if you hit play at the top of your screen, and then it'll get to the next annotation over on the left, and you can hit the A button for that being okay, and the D button for that being a pickup, and it will automatically start playing 3 seconds before the next pickup. And you listen to it, hit A or D, and it'll pop you to the next pickup and hit A or D. So you can move through a set of annotations on the left 5 times faster than before, as long as you're really focused. And it works. So we have hotkeys for styles of annotation. And I hope the people that request turbo mode are very caffeinated, because I can't keep up with it. And then holding Option or Alt for pause comments. This was another request from a while ago. If you hold down Option or Alt when your mouse is moving up or down, when it hits the spaces between paragraphs on the proofing screen, it'll say pause. And if you click on it, that means that something about that pause is too long, just for your own purposes. So instead of dragging and dropping and hitting the bubble and saying pause error, you can just hold down the Option key, and when you click pause, it's the same thing as the N, but for pauses. And Emma, yes, you can try turbo and let me know how that works for you. So we're kind of, as a company, in that in-between haircut stage. We're shifting some of the focus from pickup detection to pickup prevention. We're working really hard on script preparation stuff. So Pozotron kind of got this feel to it, like when people are bringing projects in, it's causing more pickups and causing more work. And those pickups have always been there. This has just kind of been more picky about allowing people to really get detailed reports. So to kind of balance that out, we're trying to focus on things that will prevent the pickups from happening in the first place. We're trying to add extra things to the pronunciation guide. We're going to have character reference guides and things like that. Roman is working on the PDF highlighting feature, so that after you make your pronunciation guide, you can export your script back out with all of the words on your pronunciation guide highlighted in a certain color. So this is before you even upload any audio. We're trying to put things together so that there are fewer pickups coming in. And we're updating stuff every week. The things that I've showed you on these slides might look different on Monday. So the more people that we talk to, the more we're understanding how to create this product in a way that everyone is happy with. But the bigger companies keep getting bigger, and the smaller companies or narrators keep getting more specific. So it's an interesting time, and the more you talk to us right now about what works for you, the better we can kind of prioritize what everyone's asking for. And yep, from here on out, it's going to be more office hours. I'm thinking Thursdays for an hour every once in a while. All of you are welcome. We'll still have social media and newsletter updates saying when those are, but it'll be more casual. So that's the end of my slideshow. There are some Q&A questions I'm going to look at. And people can also type stuff in the chat box. If anybody wants to talk, you can raise your hand if you want to ask questions instead of typing as well. 25 people is a good group. If anybody has anything to say. All right, let me see if I can find the Q&A. Blair says, what do you mean by office hours? Does that mean we can only get responses quickly during that time? Absolutely not. You can always email. This just means it's a time to come and chat. So it's like having an open office during that hour instead of a webinar. Please, email all the time. Jed says a guide or reference sheet somewhere on the site for hotkeys. Definitely. They keep changing on me. So we're going to improve our documentation as we go along. Sometimes the tooltips have them, other times they don't. Anonymous attendee says, any plans for a real-time Pozotron plugin available as an insert? That is my dream, is the real-time Pozotron. As far as any real roadmap on that, there is none. How soon will we be able to upload or delete an audio file we upload by mistake? So we're going to do a few things about that. If you start uploading, and there's a few different ways we can approach it. We can have a warning that says, are you sure you want to upload this before you hit upload? Yeah, but we're still a little bit on the fence of the best way to do it. And then there was a little bit of a workaround for a while. If you uploaded 10 chapters and the first 2 went through and you're like, oh shoot, I don't want those last 7. If you refreshed your browser, it would stop the uploads. But again, that was it's kind of like manually jamming on the parking brake. So it's open for discussion about the accidentally uploading a chapter. In the meantime, when you do upload chapters that are similar twice, the second one automatically gets a 50% discount. Part of that's for proofing the second time, and part of it's kind of as a fail-safe. James, I will post a link to that website. Absolutely. It's audiobookessentials.com. Emma says, will there be more hotkeys like N? Emma, you give me a list of hotkeys you want, and I will send it right to the developers. Nathaniel Hunter, you mentioned the pronunciation research function will put words names in the proofing section now. Does that mean when the pronunciation research markers are exported from this section, it will include page numbers for those markers? Yes, it absolutely does. As long as the main proofing page has page numbers associated with the script. Sometimes in docx's and EPUBs, it doesn't work, but in PDFs, absolutely. Everything that moves from the proofing or from the pronunciation to the proofing with the annotate button has all the information that the other proofing annotations do. Does it distinguish between US and British English? Color and color. Pozotron is more likely to ping pronunciations than textual differences like that. And we're starting to put together some examples of Australian accents, British accents, Irish accents, and Scottish accents. So David, there should be some demo packets pretty soon that will show you some distinctions between how the audio analysis works. And the pronunciation guide, I think that's kind of in progress, whether it uses US or British English dictionaries. I think it's geared toward US, but everything's kind of in flux with that. Esther found the website. And you can poke around on there. It's just the skeleton up right now, but you'll see kind of the idea of the sort of information that we're putting out there, almost like a card catalog of good resources that you can look at. All right, this was a ton of information and there's so much more going on. I hope I answered all the basic questions for the new people. You can always book a 15-minute, half-hour session with me, and I will go through your individual workflow, no problem. And that's where I get a lot of good feedback too, is seeing how people set things up individually. All right, you're welcome, Sean. Let's see. Nathaniel says, right now page numbers in the exported markers usually only correspond to the page numbers for the script on Pozotron. Yes, this is a known thing. What I used to do for a workaround, Nathaniel, when I was doing editing, was I would kind of force match the PDF to mix with Pozotron by adding or deleting pages at the beginning of the script. And it's a funky workaround, but it does work. As far as it being able to automatically match the numbers on the PDF, I couldn't tell you for that one. Tim says, will pronunciation guides be included with the highlighting in the export? Yes. So what it'll be a PDF export. It'll have your words highlighted and either nested underneath or over on the right, depending on how you open it, we'll have the phonetics for those words. So that's going to be really cool. All right. You're welcome, everyone. Sean, Caitlin, Audrey, Jack, Emma, Blair. Alan, I think I told you about the deleting the chapter, the archiving the chapter function underneath the pencil. That was what he was curious about earlier. Cameron, good question. Is there a way to filter out the OK notes so they don't appear? In the proofing page version, next, we're going to have boxes where you can filter out open and closed notes or notes of a certain kind or not. So you can get rid of all the paused ones, or you can get rid of all of the okayed ones, or get rid of all the typos. So it'll just be like an accordion. But yes, totally going to do that as soon as possible. All right, lots of good questions. We're at the half-hour mark. I still have some more minutes. Any beginner through advanced stuff, things that we're working on? Looks like we're good. So I will post about the office hours idea. And if people like the webinars better, we can always go back to it. But this would be, it would open up like a weekly thing once a week instead of just once a month. All right, well, thanks everybody. And if you have any questions, you can email me at ryan@pozotron.com. Go to audiobookessentials.com, check that out. We're constantly updating and upgrading, so experiment with your projects and tell me what you'd like to see. All right, see you everybody.